Neal Brown gave his pre-spring football press conference yesterday. I'm going to react to that, and we're going to talk about why there are such high expectations for this Mountaineer team in 2024. And we're going to talk about all of that right after this word from my sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you. What is up? Come on in, make yourself comfortable, belly yourself up to the bar, and let me pour you out another shot of top shelf college football content on tap at Couz's Corner. Today, we are talking about spring football for the West Virginia Mountaineers. A few days ago, I did a video with my top 5 questions for spring ball. I will leave a link to that video at the end of this one. But what I want to do here is just react to Coach Brown's press conference. He had about a 40-plus minute press conference where he gave some opening statements, answered questions for the media. And there was some pretty cool stuff in there. Nothing earth-shattering, but some pretty cool stuff. And I thought it would be cool to get on here and talk about it. Now, I've got some handy-dandy notes here. So this is going to be a little bit more informal than I normally do. And I'm very tired, so I won't do a lot of editing to this one. So if I screw up a lot, I'm sorry in advance. All right? But the first thing he talked about was some new faces that will be on campus and participating in spring ball. Some of those were, and I'm not listening. This is not the whole list now. Obviously, if you want to go see the whole press conference, you can do that at all the West Virginia media sites or at WVU Sports' YouTube channel. But just some notable transfer names. You've got Jaheim Joseph and Garnet Hollis, the 2 DBs that transferred in from Northwestern. When you look, I looked at West Virginia's roster before I did my spring video, 5 questions video the other day. They were not on the roster, so I assumed they were not going to be on campus for spring ball, but Coach Brown announced that they would be. Somehow or another, the way semesters work at Northwestern and the way they work at West Virginia, they were actually able to finish up school at Northwestern in March, come to West Virginia and get their, I guess, a semester's worth of work done or whatever they call it within a couple of months or a month or so. I think he called it a mini-mester or something like that. Anyway, they were able to enroll in school earlier than anticipated, and they will be participating in spring football. That's extremely important. Both of these guys are very talented. Both will have a legit chance to start for this Mountaineer team in 2024. And the fact that they'll be there in the spring and can familiarize themselves with the program, with the coaches, with their teammates, and with the scheme, very important. Also, you've got TJ Jackson, the defensive lineman from Troy, that a lot of people are excited about. He'll be there. You've got the West Virginia in-state kid, or young man, I should say, Xavier Bosley, the offensive lineman, who transferred from Jacksonville State. He's going to be there for spring ball. I think Ty French, the highly touted edge rusher that Drew Fabianich and Coach Brown and others have raved about, he will be there, as well as many others. Now, when talking about injured players, either players that have been injured or will miss spring due to injury, here are some of the notable names. Bryce Biggs will be limited through training camp. Tomas Rimac, the starting left guard, will miss spring ball because of an injury. Cole Taylor, tight end. We've seen videos of him popping up on social media with a sling on his arm. He had some surgery in the offseason, so he will be limited. They said Coach Brown said he will be doing some non-contact stuff, but he will be limited. Trey Lathan, the starting linebacker last year who started as a redshirt freshman, was playing really well before he got hurt in the TCU game and was out for the rest of the year. He will be back and in a full go for spring. So will Josiah Trotter, another linebacker who missed the entire season last year, his entire true freshman season with an injury. He's back and he's full go, and Coach Brown is extremely excited to have him on campus. He said Trotter is one of the best recruits he's had at West Virginia since he's been here. C.J. Donaldson will be limited again this spring. He had some off-season surgery. He will be limited. I think it's his shoulder that he had operated on, but this will be CJ's junior year, so I'm sure spring ball, even though it's important for everybody, probably less important for him than it would have been a year ago, and especially as a running back, you don't want him taking too many hits anyway. So I don't think that's that big of a deal. Also, Asani Redwood was kind of a surprise name. We heard he was out. He apparently got hurt late in the offseason drills and work, so he will miss all of spring. Coach Brown mentioned later in the press conference that he hated to see that because he felt like Asani Redwood had made a big jump, could be in for a big year, and he felt like Asani played his best game as a Mountaineer during the bowl game, and he really wanted to see him take another big step, but he will be out for spring. Other guys out for spring are defensive lineman Orion Fisher, linebacker Jai Favris, and some more good news. Defensive back Montre Miller, who transferred in last year from Kent State, who is expected to compete for a starting spot. I think he only played 1 or 2 games before missing the rest of the season with an injury. He is back and is full go right now for spring football. Now, one of the things Coach Brown talked about as far as the DBs, he said they are as deep as they have been at the defensive back position since he's been there, and they may add more bodies to that room. Now, that's a big deal. One of the biggest issues on this team the last couple of seasons has been the play of the secondary. They've addressed it through the portal. They have a key couple pieces returning, which I'll talk about now. One of those pieces being Aubrey Burks. Coach Brown said we may see Aubrey Burks playing more spear this year. He's going to put him there some in spring ball. Aubrey Burks we will probably see him spending more time rushing the passer. He said Aubrey has a knack for rushing the passer from that safety spot. Went on to talk about how they really haven't had that at that position since Tyke Smith left the program back in 2019 or 2020. He excelled in that area, but West Virginia really hasn't been strong there since then. They need to improve there, and he thinks Aubrey Burks can be a spotlight there and be strong at rushing the passer from that safety position, and he thinks Aubrey will get more work there during the spring and may be doing that more in the 2024 season than he has in the past. Brown talked about this team and how they're really close together. They're a tight-knit group. The chemistry is really good. And he was answering a question that talked about, guys being able to maintain guys, this season more so than he has in the past. Guys didn't transfer out of the program like they have in the past, or not as many guys, at least not yet anyway. Brown did joke that, they still could lose some guys, and he made a joke about that. I don't remember the exact comment he made, but he said at least not yet or something like that. But anyway, he went on to talk about how close-knit this team is and how fun of a group they are to coach. And he even went on to talk about how he has spent more time with this team. He made a point to spend more time with his team during the offseason, like during their workouts and their meetings and everything. He wanted to be around this group more because he just enjoys being around them. And he also felt like it was important for him as the head coach to spend more time with them and build that camaraderie. And I think, speaking from a fan perspective, I think that's absolutely great because you want to have that chemistry with your head coach and your players. It should help strengthen that relationship and help build chemistry and maintain culture in that locker room. He talked about the defense. Now I'm jumping around here because I'm kind of going in order as to what they talked about, the subject matter during the presser, but someone asked him about the defense and some of the hires in the offseason. He obviously talked about how they brought in Victor Cabral as an outside linebackers coach. He spoke highly of Coach Cabral and how he's really, really good he brings a lot of energy to the team, brings a lot of energy to that room. And he wants, and as I mentioned in my spring video, 5 questions for spring video, he wanted to bring somebody in that can help with the pass rush. And Victor Cabral has excelled in that area. Now, as far as Jordan Leslie goes, Jordan Leslie was the defensive coordinator and outside linebackers coach. He has stepped away from that position because Coach Brown wants Jordan Leslie to spend more time with all the position groups and help where he's needed. He may even spend more time helping with the secondary. The reason being, Dante Wright, the former corner coach, I guess actually he was a safeties coach, left to take the defensive coordinator job at Troy. Instead of hiring another secondary coach, he is going to have Shadon Brown coaching the entire secondary. Now, according to what I've heard over at earsports.com from Kazaza and Anderson, that's extremely rare at that level of college football for one coach to have the entire secondary. You don't see that a lot throughout the country. Those guys are kind of questioning that decision a little bit, I think. But Coach Brown mentioned that he likes doing that because he wants the safeties and the corners in the same meeting room so they can all speak the same language, because it will help communication on the field. Once he explained it, I think it makes sense. Will it be too much for Shadon Brown to handle? We will see. But he did mention Coach Leslie will be there to help if needed. There are also some grad assistants that he is confident in that will be there to help if needed, as well as some analysts. So there will be people helping in that room. It won't just be Shadon Brown by himself. So I thought that was of note. Went on to talk about other assistant coaches. Tyler Allen got promoted from a grad assistant or an analyst, whatever I think he was an analyst, to the full-time quarterback coach. That happened because Sean Reagan, who has been the quarterback coach, also went to Troy to be the offensive coordinator for new Troy coach Jared Parker, who also has ties to this program and to Coach Brown. He said he had a lot of confidence in Tyler Allen. Tyler Allen has already been working with Garrett Green and Nico Markiel and has been a key part of their development already. So he felt like it just made sense to promote Coach Allen to that position to build that continuity, and he felt like Allen had earned it. Coach Brown went on to talk about how, speaking of assistant coaches, someone asked him a question about, and it was a very good question. Coach Brown even acknowledged that. Someone there asked him a question about why does he like hiring coaches from up-and-coming programs or from lower-level programs. And Coach Brown kind of went on a long explanation of it, but here basically is what he said. He likes to hire young coaches because he likes people who are on an up. He likes when he looks. He said even if he's looking at his stock market or whatever, he likes to see things that are on an upward trajectory, and he likes doing that with his coaching staff as well. He kind of compared it to his own career, or the commenter or the interviewer did, the media member did, said just like your own career. And of course, he said, "Look, I've made a lot of mistakes, but I do like to see coaches who have grew at every level, and has kind of worked their way up through the different levels of the game." Now he did mention money, so I think we need to, he kind of glossed over it and mentioned it quickly. But he did say that, they don't have an endless amount of money. So I thought that kind of told us a little bit, like, even though he mentioned it briefly, that kind of tells me they can't always go out and afford to, pay a sitting Power 5 assistant coach to make a lateral move. So they have to go out and rely on up and coming coaches from lower levels who are wanting to take that next step and who are hungry. And he even mentioned that. He said, I like people who are hungry, who want to learn, who want to put in the work. That's the kind of coaches he wants. And then he also talked about obviously fit. He wants somebody who's a fit for the program and fits what they're trying to do. Now, on the thumbnail, I talked about expectations, and in the title, I talked about the expectations for 2024. Someone asked him a question about, Coach Brown, what are you going to use to motivate this team? They're likely not going to be picked to finish last again. And he went on to explain, he doesn't really talk about that a lot during spring. Right now, they're just worrying about getting themselves better. He'll worry about motivating them more in the fall or throughout the summer as they get closer to opening week. But he did talk about how there will still be a lot of naysayers out there, and they probably still won't get picked to finish, to win the league or anything like that. But he also talked about, and I think it was an answer to a separate question, but he also talked about in the presser how expectations are high for this program, not only outside the building, amongst us, the fan base, and even some there are a few YouTubers out there, a few content creators, some podcasters who are picking West Virginia to compete for the conference championship. One in particular that I had on my show, the guys over at Kings of the North, even picked them to appear in the college football playoff. But those are going to be in the minority. The majority are probably going to pick West Virginia in the middle of the pack. Coach Brown thinks they're better than that, and their expectations are higher than that. He said the expectations outside the building are high, but so are the expectations inside the building. And with that being said, they're coaching those guys a lot harder this offseason. Expectations get high, so just how hard they push them, the level of how much they push them. They're pushing them harder, coaching them harder in the offseason because they want them to achieve that next step, which is what? Competing for a conference championship. And that's where they want to be. Coach Brown thinks they can get there. The program, he thinks, is in a much, much better place. And that's where he wants to do. So he wants to push them even harder to make that next jump. And I think that's critical. That's what you want. All the great coaches, all the great programs, people like Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, they push their guys really, really hard. They expect them to be great. And they expect the players to want to be great and to put in the work to be great. And that is exactly what Coach Brown and his staff, I think, are doing during this offseason and will continue to do through spring camp, summer workouts, and even in the fall camp. Now, some individual players Brown mentioned. He mentions, obviously, I mentioned Xavier Bosley. He said that, he's the offensive lineman I mentioned out of Jacksonville State. As Xavier Bosley will be competing for, in my opinion, for a starting spot. And Coach Brown said, look, he's going to be in the mix. And he spoke highly of Bosley and how well he's changed his body since he's went to Jacksonville State to play under Coach Rick Trickett, who all of us West Virginia fans remember. He used to be here under Coach Rodriguez. He's now under Coach Rodriguez at Jacksonville State. He said West Virginia recruited Xavier Bosley out of high school. He's an in-state kid. They recruited him out of high school, but they were recruiting him as a PWO. Well, Coach Trickett saw something in him. They offered him a scholarship, so naturally that's where he went. He's changed his body since he's been at Jacksonville State. He earned freshman All-American honors. He wants to take the next step to the Power 5 level, and Coach Brown obviously liked what he saw, so he brought him on board. I thought that was noteworthy. Mentioned Corey McIntyre. They were asking him questions about the defensive line. He did mention that he's about 3 bodies away from where they want to be from a body standpoint, not only in numbers, but in types of bodies they want on the defensive front to play a true 3-4 defense. But he mentioned Corey McIntyre as one of the guys he's really looking for to make a jump this spring. Corey developed a lot and really improved over the course of last season. Got to play a lot more in the bowl game, and he expects him to make an even bigger jump this spring. Talking about the Mike linebacker spot. This is one of the positions I'm really high on. Man, West Virginia has a chance, barring injury, has a chance to be loaded at this spot, guys. I'm locking loaded. We've got Trey Lathan back from last year. Ben Cutter back from last year. We've got Josiah Trotter, the one I mentioned earlier in the video, the highly touted kid who Coach Brown expected to compete for a starting spot last year as a true freshman. All of those guys are back. You've got Reed Carrico, the transfer in from Ohio State. Coach Brown said they've got 5 or 6 bodies in that room that could realistically play in 2024. And he talked about how with this new 3-4 defense, they used to have a true Mike linebacker, and then you had a weak side, what they call a wheel linebacker spot, who was longer, had more length, a little bit quicker twitch, I guess you could say. Now they're going to be playing with 2 true Mike linebacker bodies in the box, guys who can get downhill quick. Now that they're playing this true 3-4 scheme, and the reason they're doing that is because he said those guys are easier to recruit. They're easier to find, those long, lean guys who are big enough to play linebacker, but yet fast enough to play in coverage and things like that are hard to find. So they're recruiting more true Mike linebackers, guys who can get downhill quick, make tackles. I think that's a home run move for this team. He talked about that. Someone asked him about the tight end position. He talked about, obviously, Cole Taylor's going to be limited, but it gives the guys who are in that room, the other guys who are in that room, especially the young guys, a chance to step up and have a good spring and earn some playing time. The one guy he mentioned, and this is a guy that I'm really high on, have been really high on since I watched his tape, since he committed, and that's Will Dixon. Will Dixon has yet to play a whole lot at West Virginia. I think he's going into his redshirt sophomore year, I believe. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But he's expecting big things, a big jump out of Will Dixon this spring. So, Will Dixon, pressure's on you, my man. We want to see you perform. I really love your game. I really like what you have the ability to do. I like your potential. But Coach Brown and myself, we want to see you. We want to see it come out of you this spring. He also mentioned Traylon Davis. We all know Traylon Davis. He's going into his junior year. He's been a regular at the tight end spot. Has even started a lot, even as a freshman. Not really a pass catching tight end. He's in a lot in the blocking game, in the running game as an extra blocker. He mentioned that Traylon Davis probably won't. They might limit him a little bit this spring. He's not hurt, but he said there's only so many hits a guy can take in the position he plays. He does get hit a lot, so they might not have him hitting as much this spring as they normally would. Mentioned Jackson Marco, an incoming true freshman tight end. I think he mentioned how Jackson Marco is going to have a shot this spring. I think he did that. I think he made that comment for a reason. I think he's doing that to motivate Will Dixon. He mentioned Jackson Marco a couple different times, and I think he did it to motivate Will Dixon because, again, he's expecting Will Dixon to make that leap, and he's hoping by having Jackson Marco there, the freshman, to push Dixon, he thinks maybe that will motivate Dixon to perform better. When asked about the quarterbacks, he obviously talked about Garrett. Garrett's going to miss the first practice to attend it's his grandfather or his grandmother. I apologize for not remembering that. But anyway, he's attending a funeral. But he expects, Garrett has been working this offseason to improve his completion percentage, and that's what they expect from him. But he also went on, can't leave this out, Bo Nix. He didn't compare Garrett necessarily to Bo Nix, but he did say, he talked about Bo Nix and the jump Bo Nix made in his career in completion percentage. And now Bo Nix has the opportunity to be an NFL draft pick. But I went back and looked at Bo Nix's career. Bo Nix is a true freshman at Auburn, completed 57.6% of his passes. By the time he left Oregon as a fifth-year senior, he was completing 77.4% of his passes. And from his junior year to his from his junior year to his senior year, he went from 61% to 72% completion percentage. So he had made a huge jump in that junior year at Auburn to his first year at Oregon, which would have been his true senior year, I think. So Bo Nix made a big jump, but I think some context needs to be put there. Bo Nix was a true freshman at 57.6%. Garrett Green was a junior last year. And I'm not saying that to throw a jab at Garrett Green. It was his first year as a starter, and Bo Nix started as a freshman. But I don't know that it's fair to compare Garrett's trajectory to Bo Nix's, who started as a true freshman in the SEC. I just want to leave that out there. But it was, it was comparable, I guess. But the reason Neal used Bo Nix as an example is because he recruited Bo Nix when he was at Troy, recruited Bo out of high school. So he had followed Bo's career. That's the reason he used Bo as the example, not necessarily a comparison, but just someone he had followed. And then he mentioned Nico. They obviously, he talked about how much Nico has grown. Nico has become a much more comfortable football player. He said it took Nico a couple years. He said a lot of players are ready much sooner. For Nico, it's taken him a couple of years to adjust to the game. But he felt like Nico had a really, really good, I think it was December. Said he had a really good December. And he feels like he's much more comfortable now. And they are going to give Nico a lot more reps with the ones during the spring ball just to, just in case, right? You never know when Garrett may go down. But he's a lot more comfortable with Nico coming in now than he would have been before. And you'll see, I don't want to give it all away, but you'll see I'll talk about that as well in my top 5 questions for spring video. It's amazing. Coach Brown actually covered a lot of the topics I did in his press conference. And this last but not least, a nice little nugget here. Neal talked about how he's going to be a lot more active on social media than he has in the past. He's kind of had an anti-social media policy, and we understand why. There was a lot of pressure on him. Fan base was doing a lot of barking. I get it, but he's going to be on social media more now. I think he's gotten kind of encouraged to do so by folks at WVU. He's, being on social media now is important as a coach. You want to promote your program, promote the stuff your players are doing, but he's going to use social media basically as a way to show a lot of behind-the-scenes content, which I think will be pretty cool as a fan to see. So I'll be interested to see what Coach Brown puts out on social media in the future. My overall general thoughts, I don't want to go too long here. I know this has been kind of a longer than normal video. I appreciate you staying around. But I'm excited. I'm having a really, really hard time. I'm trying to keep my expectations at a reasonable level because I don't want to set myself up for disappointment like I have in past seasons. But it's really, really hard after listening to Neal's press conference not to get excited about this 2024 campaign. Neal seems really at ease. He seems really calm. He seems really confident. And I picked that up in his body language. Last season, he seemed a lot more uptight to me, a lot more anxious. Now, which he did just sign a contract extension. I'm sure that doesn't hurt, which he talked about that in the presser too, but I'm not going to get into that. We talked about that ad nauseum. But I feel like this program is in a really, really good place. I feel like there's continuity between the coaches. I feel like there's a comfort level between the players and the coaches. I feel like there's good chemistry in the locker room. I feel like there's good player leadership on this team with Garrett Green and Sean Martin and some of these Aubrey Burks, some of these older guys. A lot of young talent coming in, as well as some veterans. I feel like we now have depth at positions that we haven't had, like defensive back, linebacker, positions where this team hasn't had a lot of depth. They now have it. And that makes me feel a lot better going into 2020. Now, they could be eat up with injuries in the offseason. Well, who knows? And I'm sure some guys will leave in the portal. But they're in a much better place now than they've been in previous off seasons, and it makes me feel much better. Now, they have a really tough schedule in 2024. So, I'm still trying to be, like I said, I'm trying to keep my expectations at a reasonable level. But, man, as a fan, listening to, the way this basketball season went for us Mountaineers, it was really cool to watch a Coach Brown press conference kind of get kind of back into football mode again. Here we are in March Madness talking about football, right? March Madness week. But nonetheless, football's right around the corner. Spring ball's around the corner. And you don't want to miss being a VIP member of Couz's Corner. Right now, I want to give my VIP member shout-outs of this show. And they are Hellbilly, Tack Sprint, Tom Reinhart, and C. Dotson B210. If you want to join this exclusive club, if you're watching on your computer, there's a button right underneath the video. It says join. You hit that button. It tells you the levels, the $2.99 pub level, the $4.99 club level, tells you the perks with each one. Or if you're watching on a phone, you can go to my channel page, and I'll show you. Or even if you're watching on a computer and you want to do it from my channel page, you can do that too. I'm going to show you right now how to do that. Right here on my main channel page, there's a button that says join. You hit that button, and right here's the levels. The pub level, it shows you the perks that go along with it. Loyalty badges next to your name in comments and live chat, which means we respond to your chat faster. And then there are custom emojis available to use in chats. And then the club, and then you also get members-only live streams and priority reply to comments. Now, the club level for $4.99, you get live all the things I just mentioned, plus you get live stream calling access. You get discounted merch. There's a special link that I put in the community tab for you club level members where you get an even bigger discount on merch. And then I will put out some videos, and I will limit the ads in those videos. I can't take them all out, but I can limit how many YouTube shows, and I will do that occasionally for my club level members so you can watch straight through with less ads. Don't get interrupted as much. And I'm now adding for all members, and especially for club level, I'll give club level more of these because I want you to get what you pay for. I'm going to start doing more members-only videos that are only available to channel members at least for a couple of weeks, if not maybe permanent. So if you want to make sure you get access to all those, join the channel. It's like I said, it's only $2.99 a month. That's less than 75 cents a day to be a pub level member. And if you want to get the higher level, it's only $4.99 a month. If you can afford that, then I would appreciate your support. You can also support me for free by liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. All of that helps the show, and it's all free and it's all easy. Want to again give a shout out to my sponsor, Dutch Miller Automotive. Check out my spring video that I mentioned right here, where I answer my 5 top questions for spring, or give you my 5 top questions for spring. Go check that out. I appreciate you tuning in. Have a top shelf day, and Q Country Roads.